video. I may have to turn on the engine again. It's 114 degrees Fahrenheit or 46 degrees Celsius outside in Bakersfield, California. And I'm trying to work on the lighting so that you can see me. Otherwise, this is a podcast, which is something I like to do because I like to talk to people and interact. That is what happens when I turn on the engine. That is to warn me if I'm driving and I'm leaving my lane, maybe accidentally or whatever. Not when you overtake. I think it can tell when you have a signal on or whatever, but if you're driving straight and all of a sudden your truck goes, it sways a little bit. Trust me, that happens more often. That the fact that they felt the need to do this means that it's a thing that happens. It happens more often than you think. I don't know, for some reason the truck is very sensitive, and so instead of you maybe kind of fishtailing or whatever, instead of bumping somebody on your left, or worse, I think worse, if you get off the lane and you end up in a ditch somewhere or in a canyon and it just like, woo, God forbid. So it warns you. Maybe you're falling asleep and you're driving. Believe it or not, a lot of truckers are sleep deprived. The 10 hours, I think that's why they came up with the hour restrictions and the whatnot, because people just drive, trying to get that mileage, trying to make that money. And not only that, companies, I think, also push truckers because they're trying to get the loads going, trying to make money. It's a lot of, I don't know why people do what they do, but the 10 hours that we get to rest, I'm going to tell you what I told a friend this morning when we were chatting. I said to her, in as much as we as truckers are forced to take, after 14 hours on duty, you're forced to take a 10-hour rest break to reset your hours. Otherwise you will be able to drive, because the clock is not going to force you to not start the truck's engine and drive. Just like, I hate to use this example, just like a restraining order is not going to force somebody to not come and kill you. I'm sorry to use that example. I'm just saying, it's a piece of paper. It's better than nothing. At least they will know maybe who killed you or whatever. Anyway, so I said to her, if you've been driving, for example, yesterday I drove from this load that I dropped here was from Kansas, like I mentioned in the previous video. However, you know, it was like a 3-day, not 3 days, but like a three trip type thing. So I drove, it was like 300 miles total. 1300 miles. That's about 21,000 kilometers. So I split it into 3, and then I drove like about 450 or 400, something like that at a time. With a truck, just double the mileage to get how long it's going to take you, to give you an idea. So if you're driving 400 miles, it's going to take you 8 hours, not 800. It's going to take you 8 hours, but of course you're going to take breaks in between, and you're going to do a pre-trip and a post-trip. You maybe fuel and whatever. So if you add all of that up, it may go up to maybe 10 hours, maybe 11, depending on how long your breaks are and other stuff. So I said to this girl, oh, that guy's totally smoking and has all his windows closed. I guess if you open the windows, then you're smoking in public. And if you don't open the windows, you're not smoking in public. Now, I said to her, for example, what I did. I drove the last leg of my trip, which is about 430, 450. I drove all the way from New Mexico to California, right? So that's about 450. And then of course when you enter California, you can't drive 65 miles, 62 miles per hour anymore. You have to slow it all the way down to 55 miles per hour, which means your average is less than 55 miles, because there will be times when it's construction and other things. So it's going to slow you down to maybe 50 miles per hour average. And I was driving most of this trip at night. Not my favorite, but it had to be done. So I did all the driving of 450 miles. I had to fuel at some point. I took a break. You have to, after 8 hours on duty, including everything else that you were doing, driving and other things, after 8 hours on duty, you run out of driving time, even though they give you 11 hours driving time per day. You run out of time when you get to 8 hours. It forces you to take a break to prevent fatigue and other things. So if you don't take that break, you're violating hours of service, HOS. So you have to take the break. So I was at, you take the break anytime within the first 8 hours, preferably after the first 4 hours, in order for you to gain about, I don't know, gain the rest of your hours, I guess 3 hours. Now, I drove, and then I had to take that break because I had 40 minutes left and I had 2 more hours to drive, so the math wasn't adding up. So I took my break and I ate, and then I drove sleepy because now I'm full and it's nighttime and the brain is like, hello, you're normally sleeping by now, especially after you eat, because you're as the python, you eat and then you sleep. I drove and then I came straight here. This is now, I had 4 hours left out of my 14-hour clock, meaning I had started my clock being on duty 10 hours ago, and then I drove and other things up until 10 hours. I had 4 hours left, right? I arrive here, my load was 12 hours late. The whole another story. Maybe I'll put it in the blog. I don't talk about that right now, but it was like a really annoying, retarded story. So I get here. Fortunately, they didn't ask any questions. They said go over there and wait. I was next in line, dude. I was next in line, and I waited 4 hours for my turn. I was next in line. 4 hours. They said park over there, so I park, and then I took a nap. They had my number. They were gonna call me, so they called me 4 hours later. So you know, I got here before midnight, and it's now 3 something, or before. Actually, it was between 4 and 5 hours. So they call me and they say pull into dock number 4, whatever, and I do that, and then they unload me. I say all that to say they unloaded me. It took them no more than an hour to unload me. Actually, if you check out my previous video talking about what happened to my water bottles when they lost air and water and stuff, I was carrying ice cream cones. I really wonder if anything happened to them. Maybe the air got out of them. It's really interesting to find that out, because I heard that sometimes when you're transporting things like chips, like Lay's or whatever, crisps, some people say like you go somewhere and they're all exploded because of elevation. Or if you're transporting marshmallows, the air gets out of them. I don't know how people prevent that. The air gets out of the marshmallows and they get all... I digress. Now, I'm already lost about 4 hours, and not lost, but you know, 4 hours is gone, and now about 1 more hour of offloading. I had 4 hours left on my clock. So by the time they were unloading me, I was out of hours. According to Department of Transport, DOT, I was supposed to be sleeping. So what I'm sitting here thinking, I even posted this on Facebook, I was like, hopefully they unload me within an hour, so that I saw that there's a truck stop 4 miles away, so I could drive there, you know, to rest. I didn't know yet if they were going to let me stay here or not. So spoiler alert, I'm still here. So they did let me stay here. I was thinking, okay, if they unload me within an hour and I still have time within that hour, because don't quote me on this, but apparently you have an extra hour after your 14 hours to drive to a place of safety, depending where you are and depending on other things. Do not quote me on this. I mean, or do, but don't quote me on this, preferably. So that was I was like, either that, or because it'll already be 6 hours total, it was already already almost 6 hours. I was like, or hopefully they take about 4 hours to unload me. That way it'll be 10 hours since I was not driving. Therefore, I can change my status on my machine to I was asleep for 10 hours in order for me to have reset my hours and be able to drive again. Hopefully this makes sense. I think it will. So if they didn't let me stay here and I was able, and they had taken 4 more hours to unload me, meaning if I had been parked here at these premises for 10 hours, not necessarily sleeping, because 1 minute you're moving a truck here to there, the next minute you're doing this, the next minute you're waiting for a phone call, whatever, you keep dozing off, you keep waking up. It's not really a sleeping break because you're working. It's like a working vacation. Vacation, but you're working. So you're sleeping, but you're not. That's what I said to the friend. I said, those are the kinds of breaks we sometimes get. If that had happened, then I would have changed my status to 10 hours, to sleeping for 10 hours, but I wasn't, which would have meant now I have 14 hours to work all over again. Then you get in the truck and you drive somewhere. Did you rest? Not really. So people, be careful on the road, number one. Number two, be careful near truckers, because you don't know what kind of rest they got, okay? I'm just saying, and much love to all the truckers out there. So I say all that to say, with those kinds of circumstances, you need to know if you're straying off of your lane. Am I right? That's that. This video ended up being much longer than I thought it would be, but I think we're gonna stop for now, and I'm gonna tidy up. I feel like my truck always needs to be tidied up. When you live in a small space, a little bit of mess make it look like it's too messy, because then you have no more space. If the space were bigger, you would just be having a laptop on the floor. I don't know why you have a laptop on the floor, but when your space is small and you have a laptop on the floor, you have nowhere to move. So yeah, been trucking now since May. I was out for a month with a trainer. I'll tell you more about it at a different time. And then June I was out by myself for a month, and that month we just finished a couple of days ago, and I'm home. I'm going home this weekend for the first time since I went out solo for a month. Is that right? Yeah, this is my first home time flying solo. It feels like I've been out there longer, but it hasn't. The initial plan when I started doing all of this was that I'm going to be over the road for about a certain amount of time, and then I'm going to go regional or local. Regional meaning, region, and then or local meaning within local, duh. So I haven't changed my mind about that yet, so maybe I'm still going to do that. I don't know, because I don't want to drive. I live in California. I don't want to drive across the country in snow, or be stuck in snow and putting chains on tires. Apparently that's what people have to do in snow. I don't want to deal with any of that. I don't even like driving like in other weather conditions, because I'm still fairly new. I just would rather drive in the middle of the day with a normal weather and everything normal. But I've experienced a lot within this 1 month. Let me get out of this video. It's too long already. Thank you for watching. Find me on social media.